Hey, welcome back to Small Batches, episode 2. So this week we are going to be making what I'm calling patty cakes. It's an adaptable recipe that you can use to make like 2 to 4 cakes or patties, depending on what you like to call them. So here's the recipe. So I'm calling them patty cakes in general because you can use different types of canned protein, as you can see, and you only need about 10 ounces. So you could use whatever you have in your pantry. Here I am using some canned salmon because sometimes my grandpa likes to make something he calls his salmon loaf. So these are going to be actually salmon cakes. But you could also use crab, you could use chicken, you could use a mixture of different types of seafood, you could use tuna even. And we have what the fancy cooks like to call our mise en place there, which is all of our other ingredients already laid out. So you can see I've added, again, so adaptable recipe, some minced yellow bell pepper, just because that's something that I like. And I have a little bit more than a tablespoon of minced parsley because I like the green stuff. I like the nice kind of like fresh flavor that it gives. And so we're going to get it together by first mixing most of this stuff, except for the half a cup of breadcrumbs into this lovely mixing bowl. And then we're going to get started. Okay, so there we go. We got all the good old ingredients in the bowl. And what's going to happen now is I'm going to kind of just gently attempt to record and mix at the same time. Let's see if I can make this work. No, it's not going to work. So we're going to try this again. All right, so we're going to try to record and mix at the same time. That is the roll of paper towel that you see there. I'm balancing because I don't have a GoPro stand with me right now. But what you want to do is just kind of like gently mix everything around, not too hard because you don't want to crush your protein of choice too much. But you do want to kind of make sure that everything kind of gets moisturized with that mayo and that Dijon or mustard. I'm using Dijon, which is a type of mustard from France. And excuse me, lemon juice. I would also like to add that this is looking a little dry, so I might add a little bit more mayo. I did also add some garlic powder to this because garlic is something that I like. And so I wanted to add that too there. Yeah, so we're gonna add a little bit more mayo because it's looking a little too dry for my liking. So in general, when you have cooking like this, if it's not baking, you can kind of ad-lib a little bit and tweak the recipe. And you kind of just get a feel for things sometimes the more often you cook. And I've made this recipe a few times before. So I say that you can make 2 to 4 patties, just depending on or cakes, excuse me. Depending on how big you make them. Yeah, that's better. You need it to be kind of wet so that it can stick together. But also, you don't want it so wet that it's just like, I don't know, all stuck together. Okay, so I'm going to show you how the patties look once they're formed. So we're going to, yeah. Okay, so here we have our bowl of our patty mixture, and then here we have that remaining half cup of breadcrumbs. And I also want to make a note now, I used panko breadcrumbs because that was something that we did have in my pantry, but you can use just plain old regular breadcrumbs. Panko breadcrumbs are just kind of like flakier, I guess. I don't really know. Really, but regular breadcrumbs work just as well. So I am gonna just show you kind of like how we form the patties or the cakes, and then we coat them in the breadcrumbs and set them up. So sometimes what I like to do to make sure that mine are uniform is I will just use a measuring cup as my mold and use that to scoop. Again, just kind of being gentle with the mixture, not crushing it too much. There. And then kind of making that nice little patty shape. So it's not so much like a, well, I don't know. I guess it's going back to how it was. And then you kind of just, oh, hang on, let me hold it up. Then I kind of just spin it on a plate, flip it, roll the sides so they're nice and coated, and then I set it to the side and start on the next one. Oh, you can't even see what I'm doing. So busy. Focused. Eye of the tiger. Yeah, and spin it on the plate. Get it nice and coated. Flip it. Then do the sides. At this point too, it could also be the point, yep, that you might be preheating your oven to make sure that it comes to temperature. One thing that I do sometimes though is I set mine in the fridge for a little bit so that they can kind of firm up and set up so that they don't fall apart while they're in the oven baking. If you don't want to bake them, you can also pan fry them, but baking is like a little bit of less oil, so I try to do that whenever possible as like a little bit of a health thing. So this is number 3, and then it looks like we're gonna have, today I'm gonna have one small one after this. So again, small batches, not big numbers here, not a lot of ingredients, not a lot of stuff. This also actually comes in time because like maybe you could make this for the person whom is a mother figure in your life for this weekend for Mother's Day, like a little nice little fancy treat. Well, they seem kind of fancy, I guess, but they're not super fancy because actually this recipe comes together pretty quickly. If I do say so myself. And they're pretty tasty. For a sauce, you can always do, I don't know, I guess you could do tartar sauce, or you could do yum yum sauce if you have that, or whatever version of yum yum sauce that you have in your house. I don't really know what yum yum sauce is, but my sister really likes it, and she has a bottle of it in the fridge. What I do sometimes is I make something that's called aioli, which is just like fancy mayo. So I basically like take some mayo, put some lemon juice in there, and then put a bunch of garlic powder in there and let it sit for a while, like half an hour, so that all the flavors can come together. That's a pretty good sized patty actually, so I'm getting 4. And then I use that as the sauce for my crab cake patties, or salmon patties. I use it for both actually, because I don't actually, for whatever reason, if mayo is flavored, I will eat it, but if it's not flavored, I'm really like not that into it. But there you go. My hands are all dirty. But we're going to, like I said, I'm going to let these set in the fridge so they can set up for a little while. And then I'm going to preheat my oven to 375. And I am going to bake them for about 8 to 10 minutes on each side. I want to kind of get both of the sides nice and brown, so it looks like they kind of got fried, but really not. I'm faking it till I make it, and you should make these too.